Welcome back to today's episode on the Nelly, and we're analyzing the Heart of Darkness.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, let's get into it. Starting from the beginning, they're laying on a steamboat, right? And Marlo hears the manager and his uncle talking about Kurtz, saying this and that, and how he's such an influence on the company, and how he sends so much ivory back.
Well, apparently, Kurtz has been sick. See, the manager and his uncle despise Kurtz's way of doing things.
Okay, so time skip, the manager's uncle, he goes off on an expedition with his crew, in which included donkeys and, in his words, less than donkeys. So they return from the expedition, whatever, and Marlo hears that all the donkeys died.
Get this, the less than donkeys are men, the African men that they didn't even bother to mention. Marlo's whole perspective is that the men are less than the donkeys, and not in a better way, but because he really thinks that they're less than donkeys.
No, yeah, that's kind of messed up, but who are we to judge on today's standards? Alright, so about 3 months later, Marlo finally fixes up the ship, and so they continue up the river with the crew of cannibals and a few pilgrims. Now, these cannibals were not actually eating other humans. They were
Just people Marlo can actually work with. Crazy, because Marlo begins to see that quality in him, the primitiveness, but what does everyone do when there's a problem?
No, they distract themselves. So what does Marlo do about this? He keeps to himself and makes it his job to keep the ship afloat.
Okay, so Marlo then continues to talk about his inner hatred to the men, and the men are just like, okay, be civil.
They obviously don't care, but Marlo's discovered that the primitiveness is in everyone. On to the next part, then there's a fork in the road, leaving Marlo having to choose between east or west. He chooses west, but get this, the natives start shooting arrows, so they continue down the stream, right? The helmsman then lets go of the steering wheel and opens fire on the natives.
So he's shooting, and Marlo takes the wheel. Not even a few minutes pass, and the helmsman is back into the pilot house. He flies with the spear to his side, filling Marlo's shoes with blood.
Then comes a pilgrim in pink delivering a message to the manager. That was then where Marlo realizes that Kurtz is dead. A gust of disappointment hits him as he throws his shoes overboard.
Marlo says that Kurtz isn't in fact dead, and then spirals into insanity.
In which he isn't actually alive, just in the sense that Kurtz just didn't just live, he left all his morals and became a monster. Marlo looked to Kurtz for the answer, and the answer that Kurtz gave him was that all men have the darkness in their hearts.
So even if Marlo's quest was over, his hope for an answer would have lived on.
Exactly. So now that Marlo knows his answer, he returns to the helmsman and pays his respect.
Essentially, he mourns the helmsman, not as a hollow person, but as a fellow worker, coming to acceptance with the heart of darkness and the darkness within him.
They finally arrive at the station, where they are met with a Russian man in colorful patches. This man, just as much as Marlo, adored Kurtz as well as the natives. He knows that the ship was attacked too.
Showing just how much the natives adored him. They attacked them so that Kurtz would have to leave.
He could say anything good or bad, and it would blind them to his eloquence. Blinded by the Kurtz, blinded by the Heart of Darkness.